Open Heart by the Dalai Lama. We're just reading it and sharing. Oh, okay, we're on page 91. And this is the chapter called Compassion. I'm going to go into depth on that one then, are we? Sounds good. What is compassion? Compassion is the wish that others be free from suffering. Compassion is the wish that others be free from suffering. I need to think about what difference that is to kindness, and I mean, it is by means of compassion that we aspire to attain enlightenment. So it is by wishing others to be free from suffering, compassion, that we aspire to attain enlightenment. Enlightenment is rise above all of our negative, unhelpful emotions, to become a more mature, compassionate person, to ultimately removing all the negativity. But I don't know whether I can't really talk about that bit. It is compassion that inspires us to engage in the virtuous practices that lead to Buddhahood. We must therefore devote ourselves to developing this compassion. What you realise after you start thinking about compassion a lot is that it is emptiness. That's very interesting. How everything is related to impermanence. It's all related to each other. It's just incredibly awesome. But, sorry, that's probably overcomplicating everything. Let's just stick with what he's talking about. In the first step toward a compassionate heart, we must develop our empathy or closeness to others. We must also recognise the gravity of their misery. The closer we are to a person, the more unbearable we find that person's suffering. The closeness I speak of is not physical proximity, nor need it be an emotional one. It is a feeling of responsibility, of concern for a person. In order to develop such closeness, we must reflect upon the virtues of cherishing the well-being of others. So, in English, or I only know about really England, there's compassion, and we hear, oh, compassion. And it brings to mind a lot of people crying about, how compassionate they feel about somebody. Or Buddhist compassion is slightly more proactive. Not saying that English compassion isn't, because obviously if you feel compassion, you maybe set up a food bank, or you actually go out and you do something. Compassion generally is a proactive feeling. I think it's where you feel something so deeply you are kicked into action. But its compassion is about seeing, like we talked about at the beginning, our own suffering. Everything that we experience that causes us suffering, everyone around you is experiencing. The Queen, everybody. And when you start to see that in yourself, when you start to see it around you, you generally start feeling like, well, you can go through different stages. I did go through a massive, depression almost, where I was just looking around me and all I saw was suffering. It's like everyone is just desperate to be loved, or and it just ripped off the rosy tinted glasses and revealed a whole world of suffering people, and I was just like, what the actual fuck? I just cannot fucking deal with that. And I spent a lot of time crying. And then you just start getting, I started to get compassion fatigue, if you like, I think they call it, where, and now it's settled down to just knowing that we're all suffering in our own way. And now that my PTSD is subsiding, I can now start thinking about how I tried to be useful, I set up the parade, Sea of Lights, tried to be useful as a person in the community, but and I need to bring it more personal now. Anyway, this is not your business, this is my business. In order to develop such closeness, we must reflect on the virtues of cherishing the well-being of others. We must come to see how this brings one inner happiness and peace of mind. We must come to recognise how others respect and like us as a result of such an attitude towards them. We must contemplate the shortcomings of self-centeredness. seeing how it causes us to act in unvirtuous ways, unhelpful, and how our own present fortune takes advantage of those less fortunate. Because the smash is so profound. Like, I know it just seems like, yeah, all right, but it's so connected to everything. It is also important that we reflect upon the kindness of others. This realization is also a fruit for cultivating empathy. We must recognize how our fortune is really dependent upon the cooperation and contributions of others. Every aspect of our present well-being is due to the hard work on the part of others. As we look around us at the buildings we live in, work in, the roads we travel, the clothes we wear, or the food we eat, we must acknowledge that they are provided by others. None of these would exist for us to enjoy and make use of were it not for the kindness of so many people unknown to us. As we contemplate this in this manner, our appreciation for others grows, as does our empathy and closeness to them. All right. So there was this argument. Oh well, the road was actually put down by people who were getting paid. The person who was pulling the rice in off the fields was getting paid. Right. Okay. I hear that. We're all trying to survive. But isn't that also part of it? So someone trying to survive does this job. But if they didn't do the job, what would you be doing? You wouldn't be having a curry, would you? So if you had to do everything yourself, what would you have to do to survive? You'd have to kill your own animals, deal with all the waste, the emotional fallout. You'd have to do everything yourself. So it is a kindness. It's like you have to see it as a kindness because it's kind to you. 7 minutes. We must work to recognise our dependence on those for whom we feel compassion. We must work to recognise our dependence on those for whom we feel compassion. Okay, so you can't just go around like bestowing your compassion liberally on others. Even your compassion is dependent on others. This recognition brings them closer. It requires sustained attention to see others through less self-centered lenses. We must work at recognizing their enormous impact on our well-being. When we resist indulging in self-centered views of the world, we can replace it with a worldview that takes every living being into account. We must not expect our view of others to change suddenly. No, you can't. I suppose you just sit with these things. They sort of sit in your mind and then it kind of ruminate it a little bit. Where are we? Let's leave that one there. We'll do recognising the suffering of others.